Happy Monday. As always, I'm hoping everybody had a fantastic weekend. And as always, we'll give it a second for all the streaming to get going and all the data to be getting sent out there to you so that you can be motivated and inspired to have a great week of practice this week. It looks like maybe things are working. Yes, things are working. Fantastic. So I am delighted to welcome you to today's live Monday Music Motivation. We'll get this shared real quick and we'll jump into today's topic. So today was inspired by something that's been very relevant in my own playing. So this past weekend I played 2 concerts, and this upcoming weekend I have 2 different concerts, and all 4 of the concerts were completely different music, different programs, with a little caveat. I think I'm playing like Jingle Bells and Joy to the World and Silent Night probably like a dozen different times in different medleys and things like that over these 4 concerts. But they're all in different keys and slightly different parts, and it's all different music for all 4 of these concerts. And this is a very kind of typical thing of this time of year, is there's just lots and lots of gigs and holiday music, which is great and fun and awesome. But it means that I need to be learning quite a lot of music pretty quickly in not a whole lot of practice time, because when you have 4 full-length concerts, most of which I only got the music for maybe a week or 2 ago, it's a lot of music to learn really, really quickly. This is kind of relevant because today the music majors at my university job will be doing their juries, which is going to be fun and exciting. And in juries, we used to do sight reading, but I recently replaced sight reading largely because a vast majority of the students are music education majors and not music performance majors. So I don't know if sight reading's the most productive. So I replaced it with error detection, which I think is much more likely what music education majors and music teachers need, more so than being able to sight read perform something. But sight read know how it should go and hear the mistakes that their students are making seems more applicable to me. But I also kind of personally am not sure how important or how effective sight reading is at assessing people. I do think it's somewhat effective for sort of getting a baseline of somebody's experience level. The more experience somebody has, then sort of the higher level they've reached, the more advanced music that they'll be able to sight read. But I don't think sight reading is something that you can really practice or really make that much progress on over a semester. So doing it at the end of a semester jury doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because what are they showing that they learned over the semester, really? And it's also stressful and not super relevant to the music education major. So all of that in mind, I think you can apply this to yourself too whenever you have music to learn, or a lot of music to learn in a short amount of time, or really any music to learn in a short amount of time, is that sight reading is not necessarily the skill you need. Sight reading, the ability to look at a piece of music and immediately play it, is also not the ability that you think it is. What I think we think sight reading is we get better at sort of reading music really, really quickly and reading faster. And I think it's easy to get this kind of mixed up with speed reading when it comes to speed reading text and whatever language you're reading. When we're reading a book and trying to sort of read faster or sight read, there are strategies to do that faster. And maybe those strategies apply to music, but because music is so time-based because of rhythm, and it's not just play it as fast as you can, which is what speed reading is, and it's actually play at exactly the right time, I think the speed reading techniques don't really work. And I think when we think of sight reading, we are thinking of those kind of speed reading techniques. Look ahead, see what's coming up, sort of get on top of things and move through it really quickly and process more quickly. But I don't think we can really do that in music. So the alternative to it, and the way to learn music fast and to be able to play a bunch of concerts without a lot of time to explicitly practice every single thing on the page is not necessarily sight reading. I think it's experience and developing experience and having a foundation of experience. Unfortunately, this means that there's no sort of magic bullet, do this for 5 days and you'll be an expert sight reader. I don't really think much of those things really work. Instead, what it is developing experience and developing a foundation of things. Now, there is one skill that sort of goes into this idea that I think could be very, very effective and very powerful for you. And it has to do with pattern recognition and seeing patterns more quickly, which I think maybe is the most sight reading like skill that you can develop, and is kind of what I'm talking about when it comes to gaining experience. So you can be a little bit more deliberate and diligent with how you're gaining experience, and not just saying like, well, I'm not going to be able to sight read until I've played for 10 years or something like that. Instead, think about, I need to find patterns and be able to recognize patterns and look for those patterns and gain experience with those patterns. So I put in the description of this video another one of my videos that I think is really great and talks about some scale patterns that I think everybody should be working on and learning. And these scale patterns apply directly to the music, and in that video I show it really, really cool and really neat how the scale patterns that you're working on apply directly to the music, and you can start to see those scale patterns in the music. As I'm playing these concerts and performances and things, I don't feel like I'm sight reading necessarily. I feel like I'm playing patterns that are familiar to me, and every single note grouping that I'm looking at, and really every single note I play, I'm putting into a recognizable grouping, whether it's just a lower neighbor tone or an arpeggio or just a straightforward scale. I'm always thinking in those patterns, and I have a lot of experience with those scale patterns, so I'm able to sight read well. The one other just brief tangent on sight reading not really being what you think it is that in a professional setting, even for me, where I have this short amount of time and I'm doing a lot of music, there's very little true sight reading. There's, in the performance, by the time of the performance, there's no note that I haven't seen before and I'm looking at for the first time. Maybe in the first rehearsal, there's a handful of things that I'm looking at for the first time. But even at that, on all of these concerts, even though it's been minimal practice time and a lot of music, I still have looked at the music and at least audiated through all of it before the first rehearsal, and probably 90% of it I've even played and practiced before the first rehearsal. So there's really no sight reading happening where I'm looking at it for the first time and just playing it. Instead, I'm looking at it the first time in the practice room, identifying these patterns, and then recalling those patterns as I'm performing it in rehearsal and performing it in the performance. So that's what learning music fast is about, is not becoming better at immediately looking at it and being able to play it. It's about looking at it, recognizing patterns in practice, recalling those patterns in performance and in rehearsal. And if you don't have those patterns learned, then you're not going to be able to recall those patterns and see the patterns in the first place. And that's where doing the scale patterns, doing the scale practice is so important. And also why we all are always talking about do your scales, do your scales, do your scales, is because you start to develop this experience of the patterns and start to recognize that in the music. So that's what I want you to check out. There's a video that explains this much better with applying the scale patterns to music, which I think will be super helpful. But that's just some food for thought, that you aren't really sight reading. What you're doing is drawing on your experience of patterns and scale patterns. And of course, hopefully now you're feeling motivated and inspired to go learn that music really fast and use those patterns. So now we get to use our practice template to make that happen. So here's what the practice game plan for your week looks like. You can download this exact template PDF at quickstartclarinet.com/get started. That link's also in the description, or just make it for yourself. Date for the week, reflection of how things are going for you, your goal for what you want to accomplish this week, and your plan for when you're going to make that happen and when you're actually going to be doing that practice. Because even when you're able to draw on those patterns and learn music quickly, you still need to actually work on it and actually figure out how it goes and take that practice time. So hopefully this has been interesting and giving you some food for thought. Again, I highly recommend that video in the description. You can also go to YouTube and just search Quick Start Clarinet scale patterns, and it should be the first video that comes up for you there as well, to see how to actually gain this experience with the scale patterns and then be able to apply that to music. And I have some music on the screen and show it and make it really explicit on how that works. So go check that out. Fill out your practice journal, your practice plan for the week, put it in your calendar, set the reminders, do whatever it takes to commit to that practice time so that you have a fantastic week of practice and keep moving forward towards whatever your next goal is or next performance in your clarinet and music journey. So thanks so much for watching. I hope everybody has a fantastic week and a fantastic week of practicing, and I will see you next time on the next live Monday Music Motivation. Have a fantastic week.